Roman Reigns' connection to the WWE fanbase is unlike anything seen in the modern era of professional wrestling. It's layered, complex, and constantly evolving, a relationship forged not just through title reigns and main events, but through shared emotion, trust, and time. Following his monumental loss to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, a defeat that ended a title run of biblical proportions, there was a visible shift in how fans responded to Reigns. What could have marked the beginning of a decline became something far deeper. It awakened something dormant, something spiritual. In his defeat, Roman Reigns became more human, and in that humanity, he became even more beloved. When Cody pinned Roman clean in the middle of the ring, the wrestling world buzzed, not with contempt for Reigns, but with respect. Here was the Tribal Chief, a man who dominated WWE for years with iron-fisted storytelling, finally tasting loss, and doing so with grace. He didn't interfere in the aftermath. He didn't pull rank. He simply walked away, his eyes vacant, a quiet storm of reflection brewing within him. That silence did more than any promo could have. Fans saw it. They felt it. They began to wonder, what's next? For the first time in years, Roman Reigns was no longer the champion, but he was still the most important man in the company. His absence made the heart grow fonder. Roman took time off after WrestleMania 40, leaving fans with only rumors, flashbacks, and the echoes of "Acknowledge Me" reverberating through arenas. But what lingered was the storytelling void he left behind. As WWE moved on and Cody Rhodes took his place as the face of the company, something didn't feel quite right. Not because Cody wasn't capable, he was. He was admirable, passionate, even heroic, but he wasn't Roman. He wasn't the foundation. The fans began to realize what they'd lost. The dramatic tension, the psychological warfare, the Godfather-like family saga that only Roman could orchestrate. Without him, WWE's universe lost gravity. No matter how bright other stars shone, it always felt like they were orbiting the memory of Reigns. When Roman finally returned in late 2024, it wasn't to reclaim his throne, it was to rebuild. But this time, his aura was different. He didn't return as the invincible Tribal Chief. He came back more subdued, grizzled by defeat, weathered by betrayal. The bloodline had fractured. Solo Sikoa was operating in his own interests. Jimmy Uso was exiled. Jay had long defected to Raw. Paul Heyman's loyalty was teetering. The dynasty was in shambles, and for the first time, Roman seemed to walk among mortals. That vulnerability didn't repel the fan base. It galvanized it. People didn't just cheer Roman. They empathized with him. They watched his world collapse and stood by him anyway. In that fragility, something unexpected happened. Roman began slowly, deliberately, regaining the crowd's sympathy, not by pandering, not by shedding his heel persona entirely, but by simply existing in shades of gray. He remained cunning, ruthless, and dominant in the ring, but outside of it, his every word carried the weight of a fallen king trying to find purpose. And when he finally addressed the WWE universe after months of absence, the reaction was thunderous. No boos, no chance of "you deserve it" for the loss, just unified applause. He stood in the middle of the ring, looked at the camera and said, "The bloodline fell, but I'm still here." And that was all it took. Fans were no longer cheering for a title holder. They were cheering for a man trying to reclaim his legacy. Complicating matters further was the rise of heel John Cena. When Cena returned post SummerSlam 2024 and executed the most shocking heel turn of his career at Elimination Chamber 2025, aligning himself with corporate interests and undercutting Cody Rhodes to capture the undisputed WWE Championship, fans were stunned. Cena, long the symbol of hustle, loyalty, and respect, had become a manifestation of power corrupted. Gone were the bright smiles and make-a-wish handshakes. In their place stood a bitter, calculated, and brutally effective tactician who mocked the crowd, denigrated younger stars, and positioned himself as the face of WWE not through merit but manipulation. He was the antithesis of what Reigns had become. This contrast only amplified the nostalgia for Roman. If Cena had become the tyrant cloaked in corporate armor, Roman now represented a raw, almost anarchic sense of authenticity. He'd ruled for years, yes, but he'd done it by building an empire from family and pain, not PR and politics. Fans began chanting Roman's name not out of force of habit, but out of necessity. They needed him back, not just to reclaim the title, but to bring balance to a WWE overtaken by synthetic storytelling. Cena was a calculated heel turn. Roman's character was lived in, and in the battle of kayfabe gods, authenticity always wins. The desire to see Roman defeat Cena stems not just from loyalty, but from poetic symmetry. These two titans clashed once in 2021, but the stakes have never been higher than now. The fans, many of whom once booed Reigns mercilessly, now sing his name in hopes of seeing a redemption arc completed. Cena, with his crisp suits and smug smirks, pokes fun at Reigns' fall from grace, calling him a dethroned tribal toddler and yesterday's news. Roman, in response, says little, but his eyes burn with purpose. The crowd sees it. They know what's coming. They want the empire rebuilt, not out of ego, but out of justice. Every step Reigns takes now feels earned. His matches are no longer exhibitions of dominance, but struggles of will. When he steps in the ring against a mid-carder, there's always the possibility of loss. Not because he's weaker, but because he's fighting a war on all fronts. Against betrayal, against doubt, against the ticking clock of his legacy. This makes every victory feel monumental and every defeat poignant. And it's precisely this narrative complexity that keeps fans invested. They don't just watch Roman, they live through him. Even the younger fans, once swayed by Cena's Cena's charisma and Cody's resilience are now chanting for Reigns. There's an undeniable magnetism to a fallen hero who refuses to stay down. Merchandise sales reflect this shift. Roman's new apparel, darker, minimalist, emblazoned with broken crowns and crimson wolves, flies off shelves. The WWE Universe isn't just buying shirts, they're buying into a mythos, a reclamation, a man clawing his way back not just to championship gold, but to emotional wholeness. In promos, Reigns rarely references the title itself. He doesn't talk about belts or accolades. He talks about honor, family, the burden of leadership. He talks about betrayal and how every loss has made him stronger. It's in these quiet, deliberate promos that fans see the artistry of his character. He isn't chasing the championship for status. He's chasing it to right the wrongs of the past. And in a company often built around superficial rivalries, this level of storytelling resonance strikes a rare chord. The arenas roar louder for him now than they did during his 1,200-day reign. Maybe it's the underdog factor, or maybe it's the tribalism of wrestling psychology, but fans love a comeback story, and Roman's isn't a comeback of circumstance, it's one of soul. He doesn't pretend to be a changed man. He acknowledges his flaws, he owns them, he doesn't ask to be cheered. He simply shows up, delivers, and lets the people decide, and they have, decisively. Speculation is rampant about when Roman will challenge Cena. Some say SummerSlam. Others believe WWE is building toward an epic WrestleMania 41 clash. Either way, the slow burn is paying dividends. Every time Cena cuts a promo mocking the fans, the louder the Roman chants grow. Every time Reigns appears on screen, the camera captures teary-eyed adults and kids in wolf masks. The audience isn't just reacting, they're participating. They want Roman to win, not as a formality, but as a revolution. A restoration of what once was, but with the wisdom of everything he's endured. In a landscape oversaturated with fast turnaround storylines, Reigns' journey stands alone in its meticulous patience. The WWE Universe watched him rise, fall, disappear, and return stronger. There's a gravity to him that no other performer can replicate. He doesn't need 20-minute promos. His silence says more. He doesn't beg for cheers. His presence demands them, and when the moment finally comes, when he stands across from heel John Cena, both icons framed by years of history, betrayal, and ambition, the pop will be biblical. The truth that WWE can't escape, no matter how many part-time megastars it throws into the mix, no matter how many legends they resurrect for pops that last seconds, is that the modern product only has one true pillar capable of holding everything together, and that man is Roman Reigns. He wasn't just a champion, he was a walking narrative, a magnet for mainstream attention, and the embodiment of WWE's evolution from the remnants of the PG era into the sprawling, unpredictable landscape of TKO's corporate experiment. While others have come and gone, been pushed and cooled, Roman Reigns sustained a dynasty that gave the company structure. Without him, WWE has spiraled into a confusing mess of tone shifts, failed pivots, and short-sighted storytelling. No better example than John Cena's failed heel turn and the botched Cody Rhodes conclusion. The only fix now is Roman Reigns returning to reassert order before the foundation collapses entirely. It won't just be about winning the title, it'll be about closing the loop. The fall of the Tribal Chief began with betrayal, fractured families, and a loss at WrestleMania 40. The redemption arc will be complete only when he topples the corporate face of WWE and raises the undisputed championship once more. Not as a tyrant, but as a man who earned it all over again. That's why the fans love him, because Roman Reigns isn't just a wrestler, he's a saga, and they want their hero to finish the story.